The Walmart spokesman, Greg Hitt, once said, "We're always looking for ways to operate more effectively and efficiently." Sometimes the ways companies do this is by laying off a bunch of people. So today I was posed with the question. I'm an executive for a major financial institution. I have a new CEO who's been charged with righting the ship and repairing the company's financial standing. The CEO has built a friendly image among the staff and wants to uphold this friendly image. However, at the executive level, he's calling for multiple layoffs throughout the company. He has asked me to be the person that begins doing these layoffs, and what he's trying to do is make me become the scapegoat in this situation. So I have the question of, how am I going to handle this ethical dilemma? So first, I'm going to tell you all about some research that I found about layoffs and how common they are in the workplace and how this is a problem that many executives and managers have to deal with. Next, I'm going to tell you about my two values in conflict here. I have this ethical responsibility to my CEO and job, but on the other hand, I have an ethical responsibility to myself and my employees and my friendship with them. And finally, I'm going to tell you about my plan of action to uphold my ability to do my job and do what the CEO wants me to do. So on May 5th, 2016, CNBC reported that 2015 was at the 7-year high for the amount of layoffs they've had. So layoffs are an ever-increasing problem in the US, and it's something that we're definitely going to have to deal with in the future. Wall Street Journal recently on January 10th, 2017, talked specifically about Walmart, which is why I wanted you to hear that quote, because they're planning by the end of this month to fire over 1,000 of their corporate members. So after looking at how these companies have handled this situation, I've kind of decided that there's these two values in conflict here. The first one is my ethical responsibility to the CEO and the job. I'm a manager, and this is within the realm of right of the CEO to ask me to fire these employees if I have to. Now, there's right and wrong ways to go about this, but it is part of the job description, and I have a responsibility to do what I was asked to do. Another point is that while it may be uncomfortable for me to do it, this may help the company be better. Like I talked about with my quote from Walmart, they're just trying to operate more effectively and efficiently. They're not firing these people because it's going to harm the company. They're doing it because they believe it's going to help the company in the long run. So I have to keep that in mind when considering this question. And finally, if I can keep this company going in the long run further, it's going to help those employees that are still there. So they want to have their jobs for themselves and their families. So I really need to consider that when taking this into account as well. On the other hand, though, I have an ethical responsibility to myself and my integrity and my relationships with my employees. No one wants to be the scapegoat of someone firing off a bunch of people. I definitely don't want to be the figurehead of that. So I really need to consider that when I'm thinking about making this decision. On top of that, if I do this, it may impact my work life. So if I fire a bunch of people and some of their friends are still there, it could cause me to have a bad experience in the workplace with people not liking me anymore, and I am the scapegoat or figurehead. So I need to think about that as well. And finally, with those employees I do fire, if they are my close friends, those are friendships that I could end up losing in the long run, even though it wasn't my idea or I didn't have anything to do with it. I was just the bearer of bad news. So after considering these things, I've come up with a plan of how I'm going to honor my ethical responsibility to my job, but trying to do it in the most pleasant manner possible. So I'm going to accept the fact that the CEO wants me to make these moves and wants me to be the person firing. So, of course, I am going to have to fire some people. But what I'm proposing to the CEO is that instead of just me, we spread this out among multiple upper-level management to start the firing process. And the reason that I feel like we can do this is this is a major financial institution. This isn't a small company. So there's no reason that just that one person needs to be the scapegoat in this situation. So I really think that that would be the first immediate action that I would take to hopefully help defuse the scapegoat situation, but still get the job done in the long run. And finally, for future action, when I'm actually in these meetings with these employees, the way you fire someone can really help determine how that relationship will be after they are fired, and if their friends are still there, how they will react to me. So I think it's appropriate to set up a really good plan and do a bunch of research on the best and appropriate ways to actually talk to employees when you're planning to lay them off, and to hopefully help them after the fact if they have some issues or whatnot with that. And finally, if the employee is my friend, that's even more key, that I need to talk with them after the fact and try to maintain that friendship and hopefully help them to understand in the long run why this had to be done and why it really wasn't my choice, it's just my job. So in conclusion, I talked to you today about some research that I found about layoffs and how common of a problem this is in the business world. It's a huge conflict, and it's always going to have to be looked at in the future. I talked to you about my two conflicting values. I have my ethical responsibility to my job, but I also have my ethical responsibility to my self-integrity and my relationships with my employees. I also told you about my action plan to go ahead and stick with firing the employees, but trying to diffuse the system and have multiple people doing the firings instead of just one. The business world is a harsh world, and as Greg Hitt said, we're always trying to find the most effective and efficient way to work. So with this, I'm going to have to go ahead and make the layoffs. Thank you.